Are Bitcoin and crypto still on schedule to correct before the halving? Let's have a look at that question in today's video, as we've obviously seen cryptos pump over the last several weeks. Yet today we're starting to see a few of them come back down against their BTC values quite significantly, few percentage to double percent, and then also against their USD values as Bitcoin slips a percent. So from yesterday's videos we're looking at here, the Bitcoin chart is indicating the biggest altcoin season for crypto is still coming. This works hand in hand with that theory. So I want to dive into that a little more today because I think there was a bit of confusion from some people, not everyone, but just some, because we don't want to get that this early on, that the markets were just going to go straight up and the biggest gains were yet to come. And if you just get in now, everything's going to be sweet. I don't think that's the case based on what I'm seeing in the charts, and that's basically what we've been following for a very long time now, looking for a correction as we talked about in yesterday's video, and then the big gains, the biggest gains of the cycle come. But what we have been doing is looking at BTC and ETH positions through these lows, and then if it's part of your plan, you switch over some of that into the altcoins, get a little bit degenerate to try and get those 50, 100 X's, but make sure you keep some of those profits nonetheless. So that's what I'll look at today, explain that in a lot more detail. You know the deal for YouTube, like and subscribe. Link in the top of the video description is for our premium weekly crypto and economic report. Get a screen like that, drop your details in, and we have a Black Friday sale coming up. So if you got your details in there, you will get notified. And you'll also get a link to our free Discord where you can check out the members' results, what they're doing, all of the honesty here as well, profits and losses, and then a ton of reviews from the past as well. So check that out if you guys are interested. So this is where we're at, your home of macro cycle analysis. Let's get into it today. So Bitcoin has had a pullback, 1.4%. Of course, this isn't that big of a deal, but when Bitcoin pulls back at these volatile times, when things are a little bit shaky for a lot of people, well, you can see that the altcoin market, at least the ones I'm looking at here in my chart, and yes, they're not going to be the same as everyone's, I get that, but I've got the major cryptos here, a lot of them that are in the sort of top 20, top 50. We just want to get a gauge of the market. Then we can go down and have a look at the top 100, a few of these ones here, then some of the smaller caps, and then basically 2017 garbage. Because we can get an idea of what's going on in the market just having a brief look at some of them, majority of them, whatever you want to do. The main thing I'm looking at here is that these altcoins have now started to slip, and you're seeing a significant pullback here on some of the major alts. That, for most of you guys who look at candles, does not look like the greatest pattern of all time. A couple of spinning tops day after such a big pump, that final exuberance into that push for new fresh prices. And guess what? We were very, very close to getting to that 50% level. As a percentage, 3% away from hitting the 50% level, and now we're seeing a rejection. Is it going to be long lasting and come back and test lower prices? Who knows? We just have to follow the trend. I'm not trying to predict anything for a guarantee. I just want to follow the trend. And so far on the way up, you can see the swing indicator, which is our custom Gann swing indicator based on very specific rules, has not shown a lower low on the way up. When that happens, then you start to look for shorts, the market heading down. That's on a shorter time frame. We're just looking at the daily here. So when that starts to switch over to the weekly as well, if you get those signals starting to form on the weekly, then watch out because you've seen that the macro is turning over. So that is potentially the correction that the market has, well, maybe waiting for to get us into that next higher low, which could be several weeks, maybe a few months away, which is what I want to get into in this video a little further. That could be into quarter 1, maybe quarter 2 of 2024. We've been going up since quarter 3. You can see September here, and then also quarter 2, you've got June, these June lows that happened in the market. So pretty significant lows, and now we have run up into this peak in November. Is it going to continue on? Well, the trend is still up on the macro, but as we just looked at on the daily, it is still up on the daily, but we're just having a bigger pullback than what we have seen throughout the entire move to the upside. What does that actually mean? Well, you can see in terms of a percentage and a point move, you can see 3 here, 0, 0, 0, and then 3, so 18% to the downside. More focused on the actual price itself. So you've got 2.5 to the downside again, We have 1.4. So basically, it is the biggest pullback so far in all of this move. That could potentially put a pause in this move, and then over the coming, like I said, possibly days, weeks, months, let's wait and see what the trend tells us. We get that correction. Maybe we get another quick final thrust up into that point. But really, when you look at it in terms of gains, it's nothing compared to that particular gain. And I know I've just pointed out Solana here, but you can see on Runes had a really big run up. Big run up. This one's still holding. So we'll wait and see on that. Also, Injective has had a really big run up, and now it's got a slightly lower high. That's that big thrust that I was talking about, say, that could happen for Solana. And you just get that very slight sign of weakness there. Still higher highs, but higher lows, but we got lower highs. So this is going to take some time. As I said, this is potentially that pattern to form if it comes down. So we're just paying attention to that, because this is usually when a lot of people come into the market at the peaks. Could be another peak, but essentially a lot of those people weren't in the market, we know, back at the lows here in November and that January-ish period of 2022, 2023, and then the lows in March, and then the next lows. We know that. This is what we're talking about in yesterday's video, and some of the posts on Twitter as well. You can see some of the dormant channels coming back on to YouTube telling us that the bull market is back on. That's the stuff to be aware of. So I've looked at that for BTC just with this 1%, 1.4%. What has it done to the market? Are we on track for that correction? That's what I was getting into when I'm looking at all of these other altcoins and their pairings against Bitcoin. Are they still strong against Bitcoin while Bitcoin is putting this little 1.4% pullback in? You can see a similar sort of pattern here for BTC. Higher highs, higher lows on the swing chart. See those highs there on the yellow line there, high highs. And then the move up, this has been a big move, and this has been a slightly shorter move than this move, which means maybe some of that energy is coming out of the market compared to what it once had to get it through that very significant $32,000 level. And that was like a key time when the market started, well, I guess maybe the retail started to come back a little more. People who weren't watching the markets have come back in. If that's you, that's okay. It's still, I think, early days for the rest of the market, but I noticed a huge change in views and subscribers, which for me is a sentiment indicator. You guys can do with that info whatever you choose to, but I've noticed that over the period of being on YouTube that you can really start to tell a market when a lot of people start to rush back in to see what's going on. And we're in that direction now. So I don't think this is over, but maybe we're getting a little bit of a correction. Now let's bring it back to a little bit more of a macro picture here. I want to just bring it to the macro so that it doesn't become too complicated with what's going on day to day. Are we about to collapse day to day? Are we about to pump day to day? Let's just take a broader view of the market. And what I'm looking at is ETH BTC. So what I'm looking at is the peak in the last cycle of ETH to the bottom of ETH. So this is the ETH value against BTC, not the dollar value, but the ETH versus BTC value. Had a nice big peak and then a collapse. It also peaked in December of 2021, and we're still on the way down. We haven't put in a lower low yet, but maybe that's what we see. Essentially, that's the dollar low. You can see here that this ETH also bottomed in 2018 here in December, and it also bottomed at $880 in June of 2022. I don't think the ETH price, the USD price, is going to go lower than those lows. It's not going to break $900. I think that's over now. I don't think it's going to break $1,300 either, that other low that it had for the USD value. But against its BTC value, it still has the possibility of breaking this low here and coming back into this support zone, that support zone that we've been watching for quite some time, based on 50%, based on previous very, very significant lows in the market, and of course, very, very significant tops in the market as well. Now, the timing, are we on track? Well, you got 23 months to this bar right here. You can see that this bar was testing that low, and maybe it did get it just nicked the bottom. You can see the bottom here, 2463, and this bar here was 2465. So call it a dead on touch, extremely close. Green month up. Guess what? We're doing a very, very similar thing at this point in time. 23 months since that top. So that's what this line is right here. There's the top. and this is to the current month itself. There's 23 bars. So it's pretty well looking very, very, very similar to that point. You got a lower top, you got a lower top, you had a big push to the downside, another big push to the downside. Last cycle, ETH was much more volatile than it has been this cycle. And then you get this move to the downside, a little bit of a bounce here, a little bit of a bounce, a bit of a grind continuing back down. And what do you know? It's got about 4 months to go to that bottom. I'm not expecting everything to happen exactly the same, but the chart is throwing that back at my face because it's happening exactly the same when it comes to timing. So even though it's happening exactly the same, I'm not going to sit here and say that it has to continue to happen exactly the same, because that would then set me up for failure. I want to be open-minded to the possibility that maybe this could be the low, and we just sort of base out here for the next few months as we catch up to the 27 month. You can see here, there's 27 months from the top to that cycle low. I'll be open-minded to it. Either way, I don't think you're going to be too upset if you were buying through this entire period here. The market did go lower, had a higher low, which is very, very important, ran up, had another higher low, another higher low. You wouldn't be too upset if you were buying ETH through that period there, and then you see that nice big pump to the upside. Now, it's not as big as other altcoins, I get that, but you're trading off against risk or riskier stuff with the other degen altcoins compared to ETH, which is less risky. No matter what you think of Ethereum and whether it's going to be the next thing, or if Solana's going to beat it, or whatever, that stuff is absolutely irrelevant right now when we are focused on the charts and just looking purely at the data itself, what the chart is telling us, our nice pure technicians, technical analysis reading. Anyway, so that's what I'm seeing here. And if we start to extend that line out to 27 months, as you can see in this line right here, that takes us out to March of 2024. So in that time frame, March of 2024, we can have a pullback before the halving, because we know the halving is scheduled somewhere around April. So there is the possibility of a correction before the halving. So I just wanted to make that another mention, because this was yesterday's video. This Bitcoin chart is indicating the biggest alt season for crypto still ahead. Yes, I still think that is a very strong possibility, and that is going to come after a correction. How big is that correction? I think many might be blindsided to think they're going to get an extreme correction on BTC, or an extreme correction on the altcoins. So this is the total 3 market cap, which we'll look at in just a sec. But I don't want to get blindsided and think that we have to have an extreme correction before the halving. It might not happen, just like what happened in 2016. We had quite a few pumps up for BTC into that 2016 peak, and the halving basically happened on the correction period. So maybe it's on the halving, maybe it's around the halving. Just be flexible in that idea. But either way, it does seem like we'll get a bit of a cooling off. And it might not seem like a lot in the charts, but we looked at this yesterday, where there is a period of the market that is still deciding whether the bulls are in complete control. For us, watching a chart, seeing those higher lows and higher highs, we pretty much understand that this is a bull market, but there's always that possibility that it's not. But for the masses during this period, they're thinking, that's it, we've come up, we've hit that top, this is going to get rejected and we're coming back down. That's why it takes another bit of time. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months was the breakout. 5 months, the market is still under the top that came in June. And then on the 6th month, it breaks out. The 7th month comes back, tests that top. The 8th month breaks out again, putting a new fresh close. The 9th month, it comes back and tests those tops once again. The 10th month, it's still within this bit of a zone, but it's climbing, it's climbing, it's climbing. And then that 11th month, we are all systems go. It's on for young and old, retail is coming in, and then the last of the retail comes in here. Collapse, game over. So basically, you still got that period there. That's the really, really fast period. That's the period that I guess many people look at as the bull market itself. But honestly, you guys know the difference here. That's basically your retail bull market when everyone's here and everyone's sort of figured out that this is it and the market's ready to go. Whereas as a long-term investor, you really do realize that this was the beginning of the bull market, because you're getting higher highs and higher lows, and you're getting in at much, much better prices, as we're talking about here for BTC, as we have looked at for, you now know, over 12 months, even going all the way back to those June lows here of 2022, and even to a degree, even the May lows there obviously don't look that bad anymore compared to where we currently sit. So that's the May 2022. So are we on track for the correction? It does look like that, especially when we look at the ETH BTC. So a bit of a pullback here. Note that we don't have a final top yet. And like I looked at in the beginning of the video, there is still the trend for the altcoins haven't completely turned down, but there is a bit of a weakness showing with the significant pullbacks on altcoins after this big run up. Look at Link as well. Link has been amazing move to the upside. There is your 50% hit on the money. Now we're starting to get this significant pullback. This so far, we've got 23 minutes left to this close, has been an 8.7% correction, but more importantly, the price itself, 0.0000376. That I think is the biggest pullback that it's seen in this entire move up. That is a start of a warning sign. Well, it's one of the warning signs if you start to see more significant corrections than anything on the way up, okay? So that doesn't mean that tomorrow you're going to see it collapse, but of course this is crypto, anything can happen. But what I'm talking about more importantly is if that is the signal or the warning sign, then just pay attention to what happens over the next several days to few weeks to see whether it continues to hold out here, because that's basically telling you the market's running out of energy. It either needs to pause and hold up here, or it's going to put in a lower high and then start to work its way back down, come in, put in that correction that we're waiting for. Then we look to the ETH BTC. Okay, how many more months we got left? Well, we've identified roughly this month to the next sort of 3, 4, 5 months. And then also total 3 shows that as well. Like I've pointed out in other videos, I think we're in this particular zone of total 3 compared to the previous cycle. Do we get these significant pullbacks? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get these sort of 80, 70, 80% type pullbacks, because this has been relatively stable on that move to the upside, just looking at total 3 market cap. So hopefully that's nice and clear. You're seeing some significant moves in the altcoins at the moment, giving some very, very early warning signs, which means they have a much higher possibility of being incorrect, or a much higher possibility of the market just holding out here, pausing, and then potentially breaking up higher, which means, oh, okay, the correction might come a little bit later. But overall, I think this might be a good period just to chill out and see what the market is telling us, because essentially this move to the upside is getting into its final stages, as you can clearly, or hopefully clearly see from the chart, of the size and the momentum of that move to the upside. So total 3, how big was that correction, or how many months? You had a couple of months here to the downside. That was bar 25 from the all-time high at the time. So 25 months saw this peak, and then the 26th month saw the market drop into that low. This entire period was roughly 7 months in total before it got to the breakout bar, and that's a significant bar to me because it broke out of these areas and closed higher than any of the accumulation period. That was July 2020. You can see on that green bar, higher than anything in that period, telling you that this market is getting ready to take off. You had another reaccumulation, take off, and then basically it's on for young and old. So I think we're still in this period here. We're still waiting to see when this month forms, which was February 2020. Taking it back to where we currently sit, we're at month 24. So maybe we start to push up into December, and then we get that nice pullback into January, which would look exactly like that. And of course, I don't want anything to be exact, but just as a rough guide, that might be sort of a time frame that we're in. Check those next couple of months in that Q1 of 2024, and then watch what happens in Q2 of 2024. Hope you found a ton of value from that. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe, and the link is in the top of the video description for our Black Friday sale coming up. Make sure you subscribe to that as well, and you'll get a link to our free Discord where you can check out reviews, results, and all of our previous newsletters as well if you missed out on anything that we've talked about. All right, guys, thanks again. I'll see you guys for the next video, and otherwise I'll stay up to date on Twitter until then. Till that time, take care. Peace out.